I found my fiancé's wedding website, and I wasn't the bride.
Yeah.
That's how I found out the man I was supposed to marry was planning a whole other wedding with someone else. Honestly, if someone had told me 2 years ago that I'd end up here, I would have laughed in your face. His name was Ethan, and we met at a friend's birthday party in Austin. He wasn't even supposed to be there. He'd come as someone's plus one. I remember noticing him right away because he wasn't the loudest or the flashiest guy in a room.
He was just calm, steady.
He offered to get me a drink, and we ended up talking for almost the whole night. It wasn't one of those whirlwind, movie-type romances. It was slow, comfortable, real. He worked in finance. I was teaching at a local elementary school. Within months, we were inseparable. He met my family, helped me move apartments, cooked for me on weekends. The kind of man every friend told me was a keeper. After a year, he proposed. It wasn't flashy, just us on a quiet hike, overlooking the lake. I cried, said yes, and thought I'd found my forever. If only I knew how wrong I was. The first sign that something was off came about 3 months after the proposal. Ethan started getting busy. I don't mean regular work busy, I mean unreachable busy. He'd call me at odd hours, say he was still at the office, then sound half asleep when I tried calling back 10 minutes later. At first, I brushed it off. We were planning a wedding. Stress made sense. He was also helping his parents with their business, so he always had an excuse that sounded reasonable. Then came the weird ones. Like the time he said he was going on a short trip for work, but couldn't tell me where exactly. I remember joking, "What? Is it top secret?" And he just laughed it off. Or the time I tried to tag him in a funny relationship meme on Facebook, and the post wouldn't go through because his profile suddenly didn't exist. He said he deactivated it to focus on work. I wanted to believe him, and I did. Because that's what you do when you love someone. You trust. But little things kept adding up. His phone would always be face down. He'd flinch a bit when I walked in while he was texting. Once, I heard a woman's voice on speaker in his car, but he quickly changed the topic and turned up the radio. I told myself not to be that kind of fiancé. Jealous, paranoid, insecure. So I swallowed my doubts and kept planning our wedding. Looking back now, I realized those moments weren't random. They were cracks, small ones, that would eventually split everything wide open. Ethan told me he had to go out of town for a team retreat. It was a Friday morning mid-March. I remember because I had the day off and offered to drive him to the airport. He immediately said no, said one of his coworkers was picking him up. That was the first time something inside me paused. He wasn't acting suspicious exactly, but there was this edge to his voice. Like he was trying too hard to sound casual. Still, I kissed him goodbye, wished him luck, and watched him leave with that same black duffel bag he always carried. That night, I FaceTimed him around 9 p.m. He didn't pick up. A few minutes later, he texted, "Sorry, bad signal here. Long day. Call you tomorrow." Normal enough, right? Except that same night, I saw one of his coworkers, the one he mentioned was on the trip, post an Instagram story. It showed her and a few others at what looked like a fancy restaurant. I didn't see Ethan anywhere. When I asked him about it the next morning, he said he skipped dinner because he wasn't feeling great. But later, when I called, I could hear music in the background, the same kind from the video I'd just watched. I didn't call him out. I wanted to, but I didn't. That weekend felt off. He barely texted, didn't answer calls, and when he did, he sounded distracted, like he was waiting for me to hang up. By Sunday, I was overthinking everything. I went through our messages, reread old texts, looked at photos, trying to reassure myself he loved me, that I was just being paranoid. Then I noticed something else. In one of his older texts, he mentioned his company was staying at the Marriott downtown, but the coworker story was tagged at the Hilton Lakeside. Same city, but completely different locations. I told myself maybe they switched hotels last minute. Still, something didn't sit right. When he got back Monday morning, I expected him to look tired. Instead, he looked refreshed, like he'd just come back from a spa weekend, not a work retreat. I hugged him, and he hugged back, but it felt off. Not cold, just distant. And when I unpacked his duffel bag to wash his clothes, I found a small card from a boutique hotel in Waco, nowhere near where he said he'd been. I remember standing there in the kitchen, holding that card, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat.
I didn't confront him that day.
I just quietly put it in a drawer, like maybe if I didn't look at it, the truth would disappear. But that card, that stupid little hotel card, was the start of everything unraveling. It happened on a random Thursday night. Nothing special. I was sitting on the couch, eating leftovers, half watching TV. Ethan was working late, which by that point wasn't unusual. I remember scrolling through Pinterest, looking for wedding decor ideas. I just saved a few centerpiece pictures and decided to look up venues in our area. That's when it happened. I typed his name into Google. I don't even know why. I think I was trying to find that vineyard he mentioned months ago. But what came up wasn't the vineyard. It was a link. A wedding website. At first, I just stared at it. It had his full name, the city we lived in, and the word wedding right beside it. I thought maybe it was a glitch or something. But curiosity got the better of me. I clicked it. The page loaded, and the first thing I saw was his face. Smiling. Dressed in a suit. And next to him, another woman. They looked happy, engagement photos holding hands in a field, the kind of pictures we used to talk about taking. My stomach dropped, so hard I thought I was going to throw up. I scrolled, hoping I'd misread something, hoping there'd be an explanation. There wasn't. The page had all the details, their story, their venue, their wedding date. 3 weeks from now. My hands were shaking so badly, I could barely hold my phone. I just kept scrolling, photos, comments from guests saying, "Can't wait for your big day." Even a registry link.
The venue?
It was the same one Ethan told me he was helping a friend book last month. The photographer? The same woman we'd planned to hire for our wedding. That's when I started crying, the kind of cry that just comes out of nowhere. I couldn't stop it. It was like my body finally understood what my mind refused to. I grabbed my laptop and looked again, thinking maybe it was some old page or a mix-up.
But no.
The site had been updated 2 days ago. And that's when it hit me. He wasn't planning to tell me. He was really going to go through with it. The last text he sent me earlier that day was, "Work's crazy. I'll call you before bed." Meanwhile, he was probably with her.
I didn't sleep that night.
I sat there refreshing the page, reading every line like torture. At some point, I stopped crying. I just went numb. The next morning, I didn't call him. I didn't yell. I didn't ask why. I just sent him the link to his own wedding website with one message. "You forgot to invite me." He didn't reply. Not that day. Not ever. He never replied to my message. Not that night, not the next morning. Nothing. 3 days went by, and I couldn't take it anymore. I barely ate, barely slept. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart jumped, but it was never him. On the 4th day, I drove to his apartment. I didn't even think it through. I just got in my car and went. His car was parked out front.
Lights were on.
He was home. When he opened the door and saw me, he froze. His expression said everything. He wasn't surprised to see me, just caught. I held up my phone and said quietly, "Why?" He didn't even ask what I meant. He just sighed, stepped aside, and said, "You should come in." The whole place smelled different. There was perfume, not mine. I stood in the middle of the living room, trying to find words. Finally, I asked, "How long have you been seeing her?" He didn't deny it.
Didn't even look me in the eye. "About a year," he said. A year. He'd proposed to me during that time.
He said it got complicated. That he didn't plan it, that it just happened. I asked him if he was still planning to marry her. He said yes, like it was the most normal answer in the world. That's when something in me snapped. Not anger, just disbelief. "You are going to marry her," I said. "And what about me? What was I supposed to be?" He rubbed his face and said, "I didn't know how to tell you." That was his excuse. 4 months of lies, for a second life, for everything. He didn't know how. I walked toward the door, but before I left, I said, I thought I'd be screaming or throwing things right now. But I just feel sorry for you." And then I left. That was the last time I saw him. For a few days after that confrontation, I couldn't think straight. I kept replaying everything he said and everything he didn't. Then one night, around 2 a.m., I opened that wedding website again. I don't even know why. Maybe I wanted to torture myself. Maybe I just needed closure. That's when I saw her name again, Lauren, and right below it, there was a link to their registry. I clicked it, and it listed her workplace, a small design studio downtown. The next morning, I went there. I didn't have a plan. I wasn't angry. I just needed to look her in the eye and know whether she knew about me. When I walked into the studio, I recognized her immediately. She was even prettier in person, soft-spoken, polite. She smiled and said, "Hi, can I help you?" For a second, I couldn't say anything. Then I just blurted it out. "Do you know Ethan Carter?" Her smile faded instantly. She nodded slowly. "Yeah, he's my fiancé." I felt my stomach twist. I could have walked out right there, but I didn't. I told her everything, that I'd been with him for 2 years, that he'd proposed to me last year, that I only found out about her through their wedding website. She just stood there. Then she sat down like her knees gave out. She whispered, "He told me he broke up with his ex because she was controlling." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was the same thing he said about his ex before me. For the next hour, we talked. Or more like sat in shock together. Every story he'd told me, he told her too, just with names and details switched around. He'd been with her for over a year. He'd proposed to her 2 months after he proposed to me. The trips, the nights he worked late, the weekends he was with family, all of it made sense now. When I left, she thanked me for coming. She said, "At least now I know." And that's the thing, we both finally knew. 2 women, 1 man, 1 giant lie. After that day at the studio, everything moved fast. Lauren called off the wedding. I didn't ask for details, but I saw the website go offline a few days later. As for Ethan, he tried calling once. I didn't pick up. He left a voicemail saying he never meant to hurt anyone, that he needed time to explain. I deleted it before it even finished playing. There wasn't anything left to explain. The truth was, I wasn't angry anymore. I was just tired. Tired of pretending, tired of replaying every moment trying to figure out where I went wrong. Because I didn't. I spent the next few weeks in silence, going to work, coming home, trying to feel normal again. Every now and then, I'd think about the future I was supposed to have. The wedding we planned. The house we talked about. The kids we named but would never have. It hurt, but eventually the hurt turned into something else. Acceptance, maybe. Lauren and I never talked again, but sometimes I think about her and hope she's okay. We were both just 2 people who trusted the wrong man. Ethan moved out of the city a few months later. Someone told me he transferred to another branch for work. I didn't bother checking. I guess that's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't always end with closure. Sometimes, you just learn to live with the silence it leaves behind. But if there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's this. If your gut whispers that something feels off, listen. Even if you don't want to. Because the truth always finds its way out, no matter how deep someone tries to bury it. That's it for today's story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more daily threads, and drop a comment to let me know your thoughts. See you in the next one.